Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome you and thank you for joining us. This is a formal hearing between human rights defenders from Serbia and the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights Defenders, Mary Lawlor. My name is Anastasia. I will be facilitating it. In recent months, all eyes have been on Serbia because of the protests and the mounting pressure on human rights defenders. But we all know from reports we receive from the ground that this pressure has been building for much longer. So the purpose of this hearing is to hear from you firsthand. What are the challenges that you and your colleagues face, the risks involved in your work, and how the international community can better support you? We have a great group of participants today, including people working on freedom of expression, association, assembly, anti-corruption, election observation, independence of the judiciary, peace, children's rights, environment, assisting vulnerable communities with economic, social, and cultural rights, and some that even work in the education sector. And we look forward to hearing from each of you. And my job will just be to make sure we stay on time and have a Q&A and discussion afterwards. Mary, would you like to greet everyone?
Hello, everybody, and thank you all for making time to come and talk to us. As Anastasia said, I'm certainly here to listen to you and to learn as much as I can about the situation that you face as human rights defenders and the current developments in Serbia. It was very useful to get your questionnaires. Thank you very much to all of you who sent them, because it helps inform us in advance of the meeting. So I will just turn it back over to you. All know what the mandate does, I presume, and we do usually report. Sorry, I start at the beginning. We do 2 country visits, except at the moment it's 1 country visit a year. We have a report to the General Assembly and to the Human Rights Council, and we have the formal tool of the mandate is to write what they call communications, which are formal letters sent to the government concerned, raising cases and asking for a response to specific questions. And this goes on all the time. And indeed, it is something that, produces mixed bag results, as you all know, but we do it anyway. And the other thing is that we use social media a lot to try, and particularly when there are urgent cases, because the communication system is quite a slow process. So sometimes we need to raise cases urgently. So we'll do a hearing disturbing news post on social media. I also would like to reiterate that I take a people-centered approach to the mandate, and that my priorities are killings, long-term imprisonment, women human rights defenders, LGBTI defenders, defenders with disabilities, children and young people who are human rights defenders, reprisals against human rights defenders, and the whole context of business and human rights, and how it overlaps with attacks against human rights defenders and killings of human rights defenders. So we do try and reach defenders who are most isolated. In fact, the last report to the council was on rural and isolated defenders. But I'm not going to take any more time, and I just want to listen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mary, for the introduction. I'd now like to invite our first participant, Jovana Spremo, from the Lawyers Committee for Human Rights, to take the floor.
Thank you, Anastasia. Distinguished Special Rapporteur, colleagues and participants, thank you for this opportunity to open the discussion, and I will present an overview of the alarming deterioration in the situation regarding position of human rights defenders in Serbia, specifically since July 2024. a period which is marked by intensified repression and systemic hostility towards civil society and both activists. The latest escalation began in July last year when human rights defenders were repeatedly stopped and detained at Serbia's border without legal justification, based solely on the notes from the State Security Agency. This form of intimidation is used by until September and clearly violated their freedom of movement. In August, however, following the anti-lithium mining protests, the government criminalized peaceful activism. Over 30 people were arrested within days and charged with vague criminal provisions such as sedition and other offenses against constitutional order and state security, which is intended to discourage participation in public assemblies overall. Simultaneously, a state-aligned media smear campaign intensified and broadcasted personal and financial data of human rights defenders obtained unlawfully from the either National Bank or anti-money laundering, anyhow, state agency. These actions blatantly violated privacy and rule of law in Serbia. A turning point, of course, was November 1st, 2024, when the collapse of Novi Sad railway station canopy killed 16 people. The tragedy triggered protests in more than 270 towns and villages, led by students and local activists. And despite being peaceful, the demonstrators were met with overt surveillance, detention, and dismissal from their jobs. At the same time, human rights defenders were subjected to unlawful digital surveillance, including intrusive spyware and phone data extraction tools, as documented by Amnesty International. In February 2025, authorities escalated the repression further, and offices of 5 CSOs were raided without proper warrants. Sensitive donor and internal data were seized and leaked later by senior state officials, reinforcing the foreign agent narratives in pro-government tabloids. A day before March 15th, when the large protest in Belgrade was scheduled, 12 students and activists were covertly recorded and broadcasted in national frequencies before being accused of preparing criminal offenses against the constitutional order. 6 remain in pre-trial detention for over 50 days, denied access to case files, and the other 6 are in political exile. Finally, March 15, 2025, the largest protest in Serbia's history was violently disrupted. During a 15-minute silence observed by 300,000 peaceful protesters in Belgrade, an unidentified sonic weapon was used. It caused mass panic, trauma, and injuries, and more than 4,000 individuals reported symptoms. The state denied any involvement, and in the meantime, we got the European Court of Human Rights interim measure ordering Serbia to prevent such actions. From January 2024 to April 2025, we documented an increase of attacks on human rights defenders, with 188 attacks in this period, being almost half of the total number of such incidents in the last 5 years. Most were perpetrated by state officials and pro-government media, and legal aid organizations are quite overwhelmed. CSOs have filed multiple submissions to UN special procedures seeking protection and accountability, given that the local legal means are not enough. So we respectfully urge your mandate, the Special Rapporteur, to report on the misuse of legal frameworks against activists and human rights defenders, and about the investigations into use of the crowd control weapons, insist on ending smear campaigns and illegal data leaks, and protecting human rights defenders from surveillance, call for release of detained student activists and end to politically motivated prosecution, and recommend a national mechanism for human rights defenders protection in line with UN declaration, and support judicial oversight and strengthen legal aid services for human rights defenders. Now more than ever, Serbia needs strong international pressure to uphold fundamental freedoms. Thank you.
Thank you, Jovana, for this important contribution. We now turn to Sofia Todorovic from the Youth Initiative for Human Rights. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to share all the insights that we have as the CSOs on the situation in Serbia. Thank you, Jovana, for providing this amazing overview. So I will now focus in my speech on, I would say, two trends. One is political persecution of young activists who are currently in a political exile. And I will also focus on the cases of human rights violation against foreign citizens in Serbia that is also being triggered by this crisis. And I will focus on anti-CSO campaign that includes illegal detentions and actions of the anti-money laundering body. So in March this year, actually, we witnessed a politically motivated case that was profiled against 12 people in total. 5 of them are members of an opposition political party. 1 of them is a school teacher, and other 6 of them are young activists from the youth activist group in Novi Sad, out of which 2 of them were also employees of Youth Initiative for Human Rights. We're speaking about young people aged from 21 to 26, against whom this persecution has launched a case under the accusation of violation of constitutional order of Serbia, which is one of the most severe criminal acts that is being rarely used. Their conversation, private conversation, has been tapped in Novi Sad, and this video and audio recording of this conversation had first been screened on 6 TV station, 6 national TV stations before we had any kind of legal steps undertaken by any judiciary body. So basically, this is how this whole case started. They were profiled as people who are violent, who want to basically do harm to the Republic of Serbia and to the country based on solely basically tapping their conversation. So this conversation has been tapped illegally. 6 of them who were at that moment in Serbia have been arrested. Their detentions has been actually extended twice. Until now, they're already for almost 2 months in prison. 6 of them were in Dubrovnik at the time attending Human Rights Festival as activists, and they're currently located in Croatia, where the last information that we have, because we are in close communication with them, they have been granted like a residency permit in a way, so they can stay in Croatia legally in the next 12 months. And the help to them has been provided to different types of emergency support for activists in danger, Youth Initiative for Human Rights in Croatia, because we are a regional organization, and Youth Initiative in Serbia. We have helped them in applying for several types of emergency funds, so they can actually, so we can enable their stay in Croatia, and so we can guarantee that they are safe in a way. We are closely monitoring the case. They all have lawyers who are working pro bono currently, but I would say that this is one of the most dangerous cases that we have seen, because we have a large number of young people involved in this. As I said, 6 of them in political exile in Croatia, and among the 6 of these who are already arrested, 1 of them is also an activist from this youth activist group, who are being kept in not so good conditions in the prison in Serbia. So this is one of the most worrying cases, which we are also trying to alarm public in Serbia about. Students have also supported this fight, but the state is basically not reacting, and they're using this case as a weapon in general against student protests. But I think that the public is not buying it in a way. On the other hand, Youth Initiative for Human Rights during this crisis monitored the cases of human rights violations of foreign citizens, especially people with Croatian citizenship, because there is the part where we have, I would say, conflict history with Croatia, and this government has been using nationalism and warmongering to, in a way, criminalize the Croatian citizens and to label them all as agents who are working against the Serbian state. Passports of many of them have been publicly shown on televisions by people who were convicted for war crimes, which is really, really scary. And their personal data have ended up in different type of media, on online portals. After that, Croatian citizens and other citizens of EU who were participating in Erste Academy in Serbia have been expelled from the country. First, they have been taken into the police station for interrogation without any legal basis for such things, and they have all been declared as a risk security risk for Serbia. We also have monitored cases of people who were working actually for different CSOs in Serbia whose working permits have been cancelled since the student protests have started under the excuse that they're presenting a risk for Republic of Serbia. So I can share this report maybe with you, so I don't take much time on this. And when it comes to the anti-CSO campaign that is being led by the government, in Youth Initiative for Human Rights, we had a case where last year I was detained 12 times, each time when I was trying to enter or leave the country without any explanation, up to 4 or 5 hours, without the access to the lawyer or anybody, because I was put on some sort of a list of security intelligence agency in Serbia. And the latest case that we have was from January, when me and other colleagues from CSOs have been put on this list of anti-money laundering body that actually gives the approval to different type of institutions in Serbia to ask any kind of information about our personal bank accounts under the pretext of anti-fund fight actually against money laundering. So I would maybe stop here and leave the floor for other colleagues in case you have any questions. I'm here.
Many thanks, Sofia, for the important insights. The next speaker on my list is Dusan Pakushevsky. Over to you, Dusan.
Hello, everyone. Madam Rapporteur, I would like to thank you for your time and for your support so far. My presentation will refer to illegal digital surveillance of human rights defenders and journalists in Serbia. In December, Amnesty International released a report detailing the widespread illegal use of digital forensic tools and spyware against activists, journalists, and members of civil society in Serbia. Amnesty's forensic analysis revealed that Ministry of Interior and the Security Information Agency repeatedly detained and questioned citizens, activists, and journalists, during which time their phones were seized and compromised. Authorities unlawfully bypass device security measures using intrusive Celebrate digital forensic tools procured exclusively for national security protection and prosecution of serious crimes. This enabled them to access and extract all data from the phones of activists and journalists, and in some cases implant on their phones the previously unknown form of spyware, which Amnesty named Novi Spy. They had unrestricted access to all contents of the individual's phones and content stored in the cloud, including not only their personal data, but also the personal data of their other contacts. Security researchers in Google informed Amnesty International's findings. Amnesty technical expert meticulously documented their findings, uncovering clear evidence of device compromise, including the presence of malicious application. Furthermore, the analysis of the Novi Spy application revealed an IP address linked to security agency server used to transmit stolen data from infected phones. Notably, the Serbian government did not comment on the findings of the report, despite receiving details prior to its publication. The use of spyware in Republic of Serbia is not only illegal, but it constitutes a criminal offense under provisions of the Criminal Code related to unauthorized collection of personal data, computer viruses, and unauthorized access to protected devices and data. The independent oversight and monitoring mechanisms for secret surveillance in Serbia, including Ombudsman and Commissioner for the Protection of Personal Data, have traditionally been extremely reluctant to engage in such investigation. Following Amnesty International report, 10 organizations from Serbia focusing on human rights took concrete action to seek accountability for these violations. We filed criminal complaint against unknown perpetrators in the police and the Security Information Agency, submitted a request to the Ombudsman to initiate an investigation, as well as requested the Commissioner for the Protection of Personal Data to initiate an inspection of the work of the police and Security Information Agency. On this occasion, we would like to inform you that we have filed an additional criminal complaint that includes 3 new cases, which involved 1 student, 1 journalist, and an activist. It is extremely concerning that 6 months after we initiated all available legal mechanisms, authorities failed to act, allowing these practices to exist and hindering legal outcome. Finally, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that Serbian authorities have also used the highly invasive spyware Pegasus to target members of think tank organization and investigative journalists. Overall, 5 cases of Pegasus attacks between July 2023 and February 2025 have been documented. The latest case concerns an attempt to attack journalists within the Balkan Investigative Reporting Network, Serbia, both of whom were covering stories involving dubious foreign investments and industrial corruption and their suspected links with the government officials. The journalists received suspicious links on their Viber messaging app, but did not click on these, avoiding full infection of their phones. The lack of reaction from the competent institution, as well as the fact that Amnesty International and Google have confirmed that there are indications that authorities in Serbia have used digital technologies to illegally monitor hundreds of Serbian citizens, indicate that illegal digital surveillance in Serbia is widespread, and therefore the need for the urgent response in order to protect human rights is much needed. In that case, we also contacted you and the Special Rapporteur on the right to privacy, initiating the special procedure. Thank you for your time, and I'm open for any questions regarding this topic.
Thank you, Dusan. Over to you, Tamara Brankovic, the Center for Research, Transparency and Accountability.
Thank you very much. Madam Rapporteur, I will address in my presentation the overall atmosphere and how propaganda turns into reality by taking the example of police raids. But first, I would like to thank you for standing next to human rights defenders in Serbia and for all the communication from the previous period in which you raised concerns, asked questions, and shared solidarity from elections to the growing repression we are witnessing over the past months. Unfortunately, the case of grave attack against CERTA's election observers from 2023, in which they were injured and their cars smashed with bats in the yard of the local police station in broad daylight as they were running from thugs to seek shelter and report vote buying and voter coercion to the police, remains without epilogue. The process ended in a deadlock on the grounds of the lack of evidence. And this is just another example in which law enforcement and the justice system are abused for maintaining the climate of impunity and instrumentalized in suppressing human rights defenders and critical voices, including students and universities in the past months. And as my colleague described, repression has rapidly expanded. First, the climate of impunity is challenged by students and massive protests that are taking place in Serbia. Student demands for the rule of law receive support of around 80% of population, and the student movement, is even after 5 months supported by around 2/3 of citizens. Second, corruption is for the first time recognized as #1 issue in the country, exceeding economy, while trust in government and especially the president of Serbia are declining. Third, the years of government propaganda and abuse of institutions to suppress pluralism and dialogue are now melting. When asked whom they trust more, the president or the students, every second citizen places their trust in the students, while only 1 in every 3rd citizen trusts Serbian president. And this is something which is actually receiving a very aggressive response from the state, this atmosphere which I just described with numbers, as the state is aggressively stoking fear of color revolution with reasoning and vocabulary in Kremlin style, while propaganda actually started becoming a reality. Within the overarching color revolution narrative, the officially declared disinformation that the US aid is an organized criminal group. It was used as a ground for the attack on NGOs. At least 5 Serbian NGOs are targets. Besides CERTA, police stormed offices of civic initiatives, Drag Foundation, Policy Center, and National Youth Council. The raid was done on the same morning and under the same pattern. Pro-government media announced the police raid on CERTA's premises before officers even arrived on February 25th. Acting at the public prosecutor's behest, around 20 armed members of the Crime Department for the Fight Against Corruption stormed our offices with undue force. This department, comprising about 50 officers, was ostensibly tasked with investigating several civil society organizations, and nearly 40% of its entire unit descended on CRTA alone under the pretext of searching for USAID documents. Sending armed police officers to inspect the documentation of a democracy watchdog can only serve as an intimidation technique. CRTA was not given any rationale for the investigation. Police took 8,500 pages of copied project documentation concerning USAID projects from the last 8 years. After the raid, the prosecutor may order and may still order further actions: 48-hour police detentions, further searches of offices and the private residences, or initiating secret financial investigations. We fear the information will be misused to further the smear campaign. Without lawful access, the president of Serbia has already used and manipulated parts of the seized information to promote the color revolution narrative even further. This is a warning that the looming threat of a foreign agents law, which is in Serbia's parliament procedure as we speak, should be taken seriously. It took only 48 hours to adopt such a law in Republika Srpska in Bosnia and Herzegovina. With protests and blockades happening daily, and with student calls for early parliamentary elections, we fear that the repression will keep increasing. I will stop here and remain at your disposal for further questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tamara. We will now turn to Igor Bandovic from the Belgrade Center for Security Policy.
Hello, and thank you for this opportunity, Madam Rapporteur. It's a pleasure to be in this hearing with you and other colleagues from the civil society in Serbia. I will focus my presentation on two issues. Although many colleagues before me spoke about general atmosphere and everything else that is happening not only to the civil society organizations and human rights defenders, but also to the citizens of Serbia. But my focus will be more on the abuse of the power of the police and secret intelligence service, because this is what we do at the Belgrade Center for Security Policy, trying to offer democratic and civilian oversight of the security sector primarily. And what my colleagues were talking about, the abuse of the security sector in political repression against anyone who thinks differently from the government, is the case absolutely of the security sector, which we consider to be captured, where actually as of 2012 there was basically getting rid of the government was getting rid of all professionals working in the police, intelligence service, and started hiring people from the primarily political ruling party and the people who are close to them. And as a result of that, we have now a situation where large portions of the security sector are basically party police. While we have seen during the protests that there are some police units who were hesitant to react and against the protestants, including the students, what we saw is that still the main, let's say, hammer of this regime is Secret Intelligence Service, who is employing, as colleagues said, spyware, who were detaining and questioning activists for their political opinions, thoughts, and for political assembling. And we consider this to be one of the most dangerous issues in the current nomenclature of Serbian government. The BIA the Secret Intelligence Service of Serbia works under the very dubious law, which is regulating their work, but it is full of holes when it comes to the exact mandate and regulation of its operations. What we know from this law is that the BIA is the organization that should, agency of the government, which should serve for the national, protection of the national interests of Serbia, fight against organized crime, terrorism, and etc. But in essence, the BIA currently in 2025 is mostly busy fighting with the political opponents of this regime. Surveillance, spyware, then propaganda that is being used against citizens, against civil society organizations, human rights defenders, secret taping of the private meetings, private conversations of these people are all the methodology that is used by this agency. What worries us very much in Belgrade Center for Security Policy is that this is not done only and solely by our own agency, and we have suspicious, we are suspicious, and we think that there are some other foreign intelligence services involved. We think that this is FSB, a notorious Russian secret intelligence service, which was basically acknowledged a couple of times by the government itself, that they are cooperating with them when it comes to this. We have had cases in 2021 when a Russian opposition was basically illegally wiretapped during their meetings in Belgrade, and later these tapes, which were handed to Russian authorities, were used in prosecution of the Vladimir Kara-Murza and other Russian opposition activists. So this is our primary concern, and this is where we see the most problematic aspect of the security sector, which is going practically wrong and not working in the service of citizens, working in the service of one ruling party and one a person who is at the top. And we think that considering that we still have protests, this can easily escalate in relatively mass violence and confrontation with rebellious citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Igor. That was very insightful, and thank you for highlighting sort of the international aspect of it as well. We will now hear from Nikola Cvetanovic from the Network of Academic Solidarity and Engagement. Please, the floor is yours.
First of all, thank you for this invitation and the opportunity to give our aspect of the situation. I would firstly like to say that we are not, we are a bit out of place in this meeting. We are not a classical NGO fighting for the human rights. We are mostly, over the years, we were concentrated on defending freedom of speech, autonomy of the university, freedom of expert opinion, and over the years we have denounced violations of university autonomy and academic freedom, in many cases of many professors which were endangered. So it is not so much a hardcore violation of human rights like arrests and so on, but recently we have some bad tendencies from the government which maybe put us in place of this meeting. We are a self-organized non-interest network of professors and researchers, so we are connected to students at all faculties, at all government universities, and even private. Just to remind you that the student-led protests have emerged in November in response to systemic corruption and institutional negligence. Especially this negligence culminated in the tragic loss of 9 lives in Novi Sad train station. At the time and during the protests, the very strong majority of professors in Serbian universities stand in solidarity with the students in the right to peaceful protest in pursuit of justice, transparency, and accountability. However, due to this support from the professors, the government deliberately attempts to silence dissent in university through fear, coercion, and so on. So now we can see 3 aspects of rights violation, especially the right to freedom of opinion and the right to protest. First of all, we have faced a systematic smear campaign against the academic staff. Especially the rector of the University of Belgrade has been the target of relentless public attacks. Pro-government figures and even government officials have not only defamed his character in government-controlled media, but have also gone so far as to call openly for his arrest. Several faculty deans have also faced similar prosecutions, and this hate speech propaganda campaign has culminated even in physical attacks on professors and deans on the street. That is the first aspect. The second aspect is now a well-orchestrated judicial campaign where, for instance, the rector of the University of Belgrade, the largest and the most important university in Serbia, is facing made-up charges for abuse of official position and was summoned in a police station urgently simply because of his support for students' right to assembly and right to protest. Several deans are now facing similar charges. In our opinion, these charges are completely unfounded, but still it is a form of legal pressure. It can go on for years. You need to take lawyers for this and so on. And the third aspect that we are facing now, most recently, is economic reprisal. Punitive measures have been enacted against us. The most notable is a drastic 88% of reduction in our salaries. So we will stay more or less with 10% of our professor salary. It is not a fiscal decision. It is an ad hoc decision. It is a strategic effort to silence the voices of dissent by directly crippling personal economic well-being of the staff. As you may well know, the economic situation for government officials, for educational staff is not very good in Serbia anyway. But when you reduce by 90% the wages, the salaries, you can imagine what kind of impact it does have on the families of the professors. This decree made by the government is completely unlawful. It was made without the proper procedure and will be challenged in courts. But again, it is a deliberate, strategic attempt to silence the voices of students and professors. So that is, of course, I'm open to any questions. That is what I was aiming at. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker who will continue on a related topic will be Danilo Čurtić from A11 Initiative for Economic and Social Rights.
Hello, good afternoon, Madam Rapporteur. Thank you for the invitation for this hearing on the situation of human rights defenders in Serbia in the context of the ongoing student protests. So my name is Danilo Čurtić and I am a program coordinator at the A11 Initiative for Economic and Social Rights. We are the national organization working on advancing economic and social rights for the most vulnerable individuals and groups in the country. And as a part of our mandate, we are closely following the situation in the educational sector, particularly the situation in primary and secondary schools, where teachers and other staff members actually decided to peacefully support student protests and their demands for justice and democracy in the country. And today I would just like to briefly share a couple of points related to persecution and financial retaliation of primary and secondary school teachers and professionals working in these schools who decided to stand together with student protests and student demands. So what happened actually is similar to actually was happened before the situation with the academic community, but actually was pretty similar in its result, let's say. So following the statements made by the president of the country in some of his media appearances on television, where he said that teachers who are not working and who are protesting and politicizing educational sector will get nothing for their salary. The Ministry of Education actually instructed the regional school administration offices to suspend their salaries, and all the schools where actually teachers were not teaching as part of their protest and support to student demands decided not to pay the salaries to primary and secondary teachers. This was made as a clear reprisal against the teachers and other professionals working in the sector. And we believe actually this had a chilling effect, not only on them to stop protesting and stop supporting student protests, but also had a decisive impact on their decisions to actually go back to school, let's say. So most of the schools now are regularly working, and people are they actually decided out of these financial reprisals not to continue with their protests. It is also, I think, worth noting that actually none of these school administration offices actually issued individual decisions on the suspension of the salaries. So this was completely made arbitrarily, and teachers and other professionals working in schools just got information about the suspension of their salaries on the day of the payment was actually supposed to come to their accounts. This also prevented them from accessing remedies, and also demonstrates how radical and unlawful this administrative practice was that actually was imposed on that. Also, there is a number of cases where teachers and professors are being unlawfully and informally also informed about the disciplinary proceedings that will be taken against them. There is a number of cases where Ministry of Education inspectors were actually visiting schools in order to put pressure on different schools to continue with teaching and actually to stop support to student protests. And also at the end, I would just like to say that we also believe that this is having a chilling effect on other individuals working in, especially in public sector, who are supporting student protests and who are also thinking and discussing this idea of supporting general strike in the country. At this moment, we are collecting individual testimonials from primary and secondary school teachers and collecting data on this situation, and we will be very happy to share more details and even approach the mandate after the analysis and the finalization of this collection of testimonials in the coming weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the contribution. And we will now have our last speaker, Radovan Chivaric.
Good afternoon. Madam Rapporteur, thank you once again for the opportunity to share our information with you. My name is Radovan Cicvaric, and I am a director of Užice Child Rights Center. Today we have my colleagues Dragana from Child Rights Center Belgrade and Sasha from Network of Organizations for Children of Serbia. I will present you our joint statement on the position of children human rights defenders. In the context of turbulent events as of November 1, 2024 until today in Serbia, children's participation and contribution to the current protest has been significant. After the beginning of student blockades at the faculties, a significant number of primary and secondary schools supported students and started their own school blockades, expressing solidarity and supporting student demands. By doing so, children took an active role in struggle for democratic society in Serbia, the rule of law and human rights, as child human rights defenders. Right from the beginning, those peaceful protests were met with severe repression by the government, raising serious concerns about violation of child rights and suppression of the democratic principles. The government response was focused on denying rights and discrediting high school students' children protests. Serbia's Minister of Education condemned the process, labeling them as a political exploitation. This response undermined children's rights to free expression, peaceful assembly, and association. President Vučić intervened publicly, attacking student-led protests in numerous times. High Representative of the ruling party and a member of the parliament, Đukanović, publicly said, I quote, "The children are the property of the state," end of the quote. The government abruptly ended the school semester in December 24, citing security concerns, when in fact the real reason was to prevent the protests from spreading to other schools. This decision lacked legal grounding and disrupting students' education. It was followed by the decision to reduce salaries to teachers who supported children protests, which was additional pressure and an attempt to suppress the protests. All these actions of the government created an atmosphere of hostility, discomfort, and insecurity in which the children exercise their rights guaranteed by the Constitution and international human rights treaties. As the protests gained momentum, the power holders responded with even stronger threats and action, intensifying the growing tension. The following recurring patterns emerged. High school students with volley activism frequently experienced interference, intimidation, and pressure from school and local authority, including threats of disciplinary action, grade manipulation, and restricted access to school facilities. Physical violence and threats. High school students have faced violent confrontations from external factors, in most cases connected to the ruling party, such as knife attack and physical assaults. These incidents highlight the physical danger students face during the process and followed by the insufficient police response. Moreover, instead of offering protection, the police presence at high school student protests has created atmosphere of fear through surveillance, unjustified data collection, and intimidation tactics like summoning students for questioning. Criminalization of the protest. Legal and police interventions aimed to prevent protests exemplified by police summons and retaliatory measures in schools where power holders pressured the teachers and the students. We also experienced and documented several cases of suppressing of freedom of expressions and blocking students' voice. Network of children organizations for children of Serbia documented numerous incidents, and more detailed information on each case can be provided on the request. Child rights organizations defended child rights to peaceful assembly and freedom of expression, reaffirming the civil and political rights of children guaranteed by the Articles 12 to 17 of the Convention on the Rights of a Child. For example, in numerous public statements and media appearances, these organizations stood up for children and their rights. In direct contact with children at schools, they empower children in terms of arguments against the attacks and denial of their rights by the authority. Practically at the same moment, these organizations became the targets of the ruling structures and the highest officials of the government, calling us foreign agents, traitors, agents of instability, followed by the false accusations of war, money laundering, misuse of funds, and using funds for overturn of the government. These actions of child rights organizations were of particular importance, especially considering the fact that even independent media were not open to talking directly to children and giving them space to explain their views, fearing that they could be attacked by the regime through accusations of manipulating the children. Child rights organizations face attacks not only in the context of protests, but also in connection to election of the electronic media regulatory body from November to January of this year, when our proposals for an independent candidate led to government accusations similar, as I mentioned, both that increased discomfort, fear, and pressure to our staff. Thank you once again, and my colleagues and me will be happy to answer any further questions.
Thank you, Radovan. That was very informative. We now finished with the interventions, and we would like to thank all the speakers. We have about half an hour for any discussion, comments. So I will now hand it over to you, Mary, in case you want to clarify anything.
Thank you very much, everybody, for sharing your information with us. I need to say at the outset that my mandate is only human rights defenders. So although it was really interesting to hear a lot of the broader issues that occur and are occurring in Serbia, the whole question of academic freedom, for example, is better placed with the Special Rapporteur on freedom of expression, Irene Khan, and the Special Rapporteur on education. But turning to some of the issues that were raised, I mean, it is very, very disheartening and sad to hear about the terrible smearing of human rights defenders, the surveillance of human rights defenders, the stigmatization, the illegal detentions, the attacks on protesting defenders. And then also thank you for drawing the attention to women human rights defenders. And I am so impressed by some of the stuff that you wrote in your questionnaires, like, for example, CRTA, where you managed to mobilize and deploy 3,000 electoral observers. That's in a very short space of time, leading to during and also the 20,000 people that showed up for the demonstrations against it. That's huge. And to be able to do that, you should really be very proud of yourself. As you know, I'm very interested in children and young people who are human rights defenders, and I understand Anastasia is setting up a separate consultation with children and young people who are human rights defenders. So that will be coming up, and I'm be looking forward to hearing from that. I would like to hear more about if anyone has anything more to say about environmental or climate human rights defenders. I know that, for example, there are issues to do with mining in the country, and I would be grateful if anyone could speak to that. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. And of course, the surveillance and Pegasus is something it's not new, but it is very, very dangerous. I'd also like to hear a little bit about, if you don't mind, how you see the overlap with Serbia and Croatia, and even parts of Bosnia. That would be very interesting for me, just from a general point of view. So maybe I'll leave it at that, and yeah, and we'll open up the discussion then, and perhaps Sophia, you want to come in? Anyway, sorry, I leave it at that.
Yes,
I can maybe jump in. I can maybe jump in for basically two questions. One is about the environmental activists. This activist group of young activists that I have been mentioning that are facing political persecution, they have become also very popular and recognized within the public because of their protest against the mining that would jeopardize basic European standards and basically human rights in general of the people who live in the valley of the river of Jadar. So this is one of their, I would say, most seen action. Besides that, they have also been very vocal about different kind of other things, such as autonomy of the university. They were the first who raised this. And when the canopy in Novi Sad railway station fell, they were the first young people who organized protests, actually, in Novi Sad with many, many other citizens, and who were actually asking for the accountability. So basically, 6, 7 of those people who are now facing these charges are basically also very recognized because of they had this also a walk tour. They had like this long protest walk from the city of Belgrade to Gornje Nedeljice. and one of them is Mila Pajic. She's also, I would say, one of the most targeted young activists. She is a young woman. She's 22 years old, and she was also very engaged in reconciliation efforts. So this has actually been used to discredit her by the government in the public. And we raised many cases, and we sued a lot of tabloids. Even we sued the former Prime Minister of Serbia for attacking her directly. And we also initiated a case of interim measures in front of the European Court for Human Rights. So this is something that is ongoing, and she is part of this group that is now in the political exile in Croatia. So that would be my contribution to that question. And when it comes to Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia relations, if I understood the questions correctly, but feel free to be more specific or to ask other questions. Since we are a regional organization and we do human rights work monitoring that is deeply rooted and has the component in dealing with the past and addressing mass atrocities that have happened. And we are usually very vocal in Serbia about good neighborly relations with other countries. So currently, when these protests started, the government started, I would say, to somehow very artificially create links between the protests and the Croatian influence in Serbia, which was really weird and really something that has no basis. And they really tried so hard to establish this kind of connections in order to, I would say, misuse the trauma that exists, post-war trauma that exists in Serbian society, because we had many refugees who fled from Croatia during the war in Serbia, to actually create this kind of hate and fear atmosphere, so the people can, find the enemy who is provoking this in their country, so they can have negative sentiments regarding the protest. When it comes to Bosnia, it doesn't have a lot to do with protests, even though several Bosnian citizens have faced this ban to enter Serbia, such as, for example, Feđa Štukan, who is an actor. But what there is with Bosnia is that since the crisis started, the entity of Republika Srpska and Milorad Dodik start to have like very, they introduced this foreign agents law that became like a debate. Republika Srpska is strongly supporting the Serbian government in everything, and they're constantly trying to show this kind of unity and this kind of cooperation that exists, and that basically Republika Srpska is on the side of the government, even though you have activists within Republika Srpska who are, challenging this narrative. So basically, the situation in Bosnia, I would say, that started to deteriorate, especially last year with Srebrenica resolution, which we were like very vocal about, and it has been used also during the election campaign to say that this resolution serves to establish worldwide that Serbs are genocidal as a nation and as a people. I know that it sounds funny, but it's very dangerous, and it created a lot of problems for many people and many activists who are actually asking Serbia to support this resolution as one step towards the reconciliation. And Mila Pajic was one of them, for example. So I think that would be it. So I hope that this provided you with a clearer picture on what is going on.
Thank you.
Giovanna?
Yes, I would like to build up on the question regarding environmental human rights defenders, because this is the group of human rights defenders that is probably the first who could mobilize the thousands of people in the streets. And it didn't start quite recently. It started, I would say, to grow after COVID. So somewhere around 21 and 22, there were, at that point, the largest protests organized, and there were environmental protests. These were specifically oriented towards the two laws, which were designed in a way that could affect directly the protection of environment in certain region of Serbia. But the largest one that we had in August last year actually launched this, as I mentioned in the beginning of my speech, launched this open deterioration of the position towards the human rights defenders. specifically because this avalanche of reaction of the government is actually done because they are wrong towards the economical possible economical gains of the current elite. And since they were the ones who were very openly communicating the needs of the lithium mining projects to happen in Serbia, at the same time, this anti-lithium digging movement actually arose. And these activists were mainly detained because of the criminal offense of sedition. Or actually being a threat towards the national interest. They became an example of this severe attacks on human rights defenders, which amount towards the detention. Of course, now with the recent developments from November, it didn't have to do much with the environmental human rights defenders as such, but it's more against the people who are protesting or supporting the student movements. But as Sofia mentioned, the youth activists who launched the first protest from November were actually this group who was very active in the August anti-lithium mining protests. We as Lawyers Committee for Human Rights actually submitted a specific contribution on the attacks on environmental human rights defenders, because we actually map the incidents and the attacks on human rights defenders on specific issues. So we could just extract the interested cases which are tackling the environmental human rights defenders.
Did you make a submission on we're doing a report to the General Assembly on climate change and a just transition. Did you make a submission to that?
Yes, that is the one. A few days ago was the deadline.
Yeah. Okay, that's the one. Just checking. I know one of my colleagues is busily going through the 120 submissions that we have.
Does anyone else want to say anything, or we have more questions? At least I have 3 here.
And also, perhaps Orshi might like to ask a question as well, or make a
yes.
comment. She reminded me of the I think it's a great campaigning tool. The bicycle from Belgrade to Strasbourg. I thought that sounded very interesting. I hope we have somebody from the bicycles on the next call.
Yeah, so how about we turn to Orsi, if Orsi, you want to ask anything?
Thank you, Mary and Anastasia, and thank you, colleagues, for all these inputs. They were extremely useful, and I think it will inform the next steps, not just for this mandate, but hopefully to other mandates as well that are potentially relevant. So if you permit us, we would be planning to share the information with at least the privacy, the education, and the freedom of expression mandates at this stage. I think there would be a merit, as the Special Rapporteur mentioned, to expand a little bit further, not necessarily in this discussion, but we can be in touch afterwards, and also following the next hearing with the child and the youth defenders on what you have shared about, the repression of student protesters, child activists, and beyond, in conjunction with the academic autonomy restrictions. This could be again a potential joint action with other rapporteurs. As Mary has mentioned, there has been quite a lot of action from various mandate holders in the past months. I think the fact that basically 4 out of the 5 communications that the Special Rapporteur led on were sent in 2024, and this year indicates that there is a significant deterioration in the situation, and we would encourage you to stay in contact with us and submit additional information. And also the social media post that Mary had put out could I hope that they have helped as well. Thank you. Over.
So, can I know, Sophie, you want to come in, but can I just respond there? I know that Gina Romero was there 2 weeks ago in Belgrade and Novi Sad. Did you all meet with her? Everyone met with her. Okay.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to add and to follow up on what Madame Rapporteur said. What is needed? We are considering that basically at this time and at this moment, the government is really enemy of the human rights defenders. And taking that into account, what I think have to do is internationally expose these things as much as we can, using all formal and informal networks that we have, because we learned in a hard way that this government works only under severe pressure, and usually from those who have certain leverage over them. In this case, it might be the EU because of the money, or it might be someone else. Thank you.
If I could just come in, because I found this meeting really interesting as well. And I wanted to ask, so Igor, you mentioned the EU and other international stakeholders who may have some impact on the situation in Serbia. We know that Serbia is a EU member candidate. And I wonder which stakeholders you think have the most leverage, and if some of them were to watch the recording, for example, and to wonder what else they can do better, what would you recommend? And another question I had is, we have here people working on a range of different issues, but not all, of course, because of the restrictions on the number of speakers. If anyone could just mention what groups of human rights defenders are the most targeted in the country beyond what has already been raised. I'm thinking about LGBT human rights defenders, for example, and perhaps other working on marginalized groups. I know that some of you that Danilo has experience working with Roma communities and etc. So it would be really useful, I think, to hear about this kind of more targeted pressure. Thank you.
Yes, for that question on the who might influence, I think, well, it can be UN bodies, Council of Europe, of course, the all these institutional mechanisms, but also human rights defenders from other countries, which can raise the issue of human rights defenders in Serbia with their own constituency. For example, we are working a lot with Amnesty International Netherlands. We are working with Access Now. We are working with frontline defenders. So I think raising awareness in their own country, especially in the EU, I think, because this is the framework we are working in, is very important in order to increase the pressure. Unfortunately, at this point in time, I would rather go with alternative mechanisms than the really formal national mechanism of protection of human rights defenders. How to institutionalize this alternative monitoring mechanism so we can have one hub for all these violations, because all the organizations, all human rights defender organizations in our country are not capable of coping with so many violations at this point in time. If that's the answer to your question.
Thank you. Dushan is holding his hand.
Yes, Madam Rapporteur just reminded me that we are reaching out not the deadline, but this term in time that we should submit the midterm UPR report. So there will definitely be a submission from the Serbia CSOs, and I think it is the perfect time for other stakeholders to react, having in mind that we had several recommendations from different UN member states regarding the position of the human rights defenders. I think that midterm report is a good opportunity to remind the members of the Council regarding the obligation that Serbia received. So just a quick intervention.
And just regarding the most targeted group of human rights defenders, I would say that, well, it's not specific, but I would say that human rights defenders who deal with political and citizen rights are at this moment the most affected by the attacks.
Okay, noted. We have many pages of notes here, so thank you. That was very informative. And I also wanted to mention that we have, well, this recording will become public after some time, as we discussed before. We're almost out of time, so I'll just wrap up by thanking all the participants again for your valuable input today. It's been incredibly helpful, and we look forward to staying in touch. Thank you again.